Hello and welcome, I'm Tafara Gadamu. Established in 1937 by Malaku Bayan, an Ethiopian medical doctor in the United States, the Ethiopian World Federation is trying to make its presence felt by bringing together people of African descent. And many Africans in the diaspora believe repatriation is the way out. Ambrose King, the organization's Ethiopian representative, joins me to reflect on the possibilities. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tafara.
So we're talking about an institution that is 87 years old.
Yes.
Established in the United States, founded in the United States.
Correct.
The Ethiopian World Federation.
And it's a very powerful institution in that when it was established 87 years ago, Ethiopia was the victim of injustice of the League of Nations and a conspiracy between fellow members of the League, namely Britain, France, and Italy, conspiring to invade Ethiopia, the last independent, free, black bastion of black peoples of the world. And what His Majesty did, when he saw black peoples around the world demonstrating in Harlem, Manhattan, New York, African Americans, so-called, were rioting on the streets with Italian immigrants. And in this atmosphere where he saw black peoples around the world were crying for justice, he sent his angel, Dr. Malaku Bayan, to New York, which at that time was the citadel of black consciousness. The most educated black people were to be found in Harlem, New York. And he established a constitution for the black peoples of the world government.
That was going to be the basis for the formation of Ethiopian World Federation, right?
That's correct. So he gave us a constitution which is the basis of a government, because since slavery, the black peoples in the West had not formulated as a nation, and the nation-building exercise required a government. So what His Majesty did, besides giving Ethiopia its first written constitution in 1931, he turned his face now to all the black peoples in the world and gave them their first written constitution to form the black world government.
So in essence, the constitution has remained unchanged for the last 87 years.
Unchanged.
If you were to tell the story of this constitution in 1 minute, how would you put it?
Well, its preamble says it very well. In order to effect unity, solidarity, liberty, freedom, self-determination, to secure justice, and to maintain the integrity of Ethiopia, which is our divine heritage, we hereby do establish this constitution for the black peoples of the world.
So you're talking about some kind of repatriation, right?
Definitely. Carve for ourselves a place in the sun is one of the main objectives. When you read past the preamble of the Constitution, it has several major objectives.
It certainly has. I've read it. I've read part of it, but largely it is a focus. It focuses on Ethiopia, and if you look at it from a different perspective, it's an African narrative. So it's all about bringing the black people lost to the continent to return.
Correct.
And Ethiopia being the base.
Not just solely focusing on Abyssinia or the Horn of Africa, but the continent of Ethiopia. So this was a very important epoch in our history of the black struggle, because all those black people out in the West were divided amongst African Americans, West Indians, South American, Black British, European, French, Francophone, and all the rest of it. And how were they to unite to secure justice for the ancestors of that Middle Passage? The instrument to unite, the modern instrument, as His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I had seen, was a constitution. So he gave to the black peoples of the world their first written constitution to unite, organize, and centralize.
Are you united? Are you organized?
When you say you, do you mean the black race?
Africans in the diaspora.
Well, let's say that...
With all the good intentions of coming back to the
They're
story.
getting organized. They are centralizing. But it's a long process. It's probably a whole lifetime process. And the history of this organization, 87 years, is a lifetime. But I think we've still got some mileage to do.
But you barely scratch the surface. Do you agree?
I wouldn't say that at all. I think the establishment of this constitution, and without weapons, without money, black peoples of the West helped Ethiopia defeat a whole world called the League of Nations, who was opposing Ethiopia's freedom. That was the first victory. After that victory came the redemption or repatriation of the black race. Now that's when it took a setback, because after the war it seemed like the African Americans lost interest or they were distracted. So instead of building up that momentum to repatriate and redevelop the continent, we were distracted in other issues. This is what I see.
Does it say something about the whole concept of repatriation?
Yes.
Or you just see it's not just a setback?
Yes, it's not just a setback, but we have to realize what we're up against. The fall of the Babylonian Empire, as we, the Rastafari, call it, is happening. If anybody has any consciousness, they can see this Babylonian Empire that introduced slavery is going down. Spiritually, it's already collapsed.
But I have heard that story years back, decades back. Why is it a new thing?
Because we're up against an empire, and we are the victims, we are the sons and daughters of slavery. It's not going to be an overnight victory. It's going to take some time because of what we're up against. So I don't see it as a total setback. I think we have influenced the whole black consciousness and the human family consciousness in bringing to the surface these issues of injustice that are still being perpetrated. So it's been a long time coming, but I can see more and more this repatriation will come to fruition. Because
when do you think it will come to fruition? Because as it stands, it was, to the best of my knowledge, in 1961 that a group of African Americans from the West Indies and also from America proper flew to Ethiopia, paid a visit not only to Ethiopia but three or four other African countries. That was 1961. We're talking about 65 years.
Yes, but that's just a drop in the ocean when we consider that this wicked empire has been in power since at least 2,000 years. So, I mean, 60, 70, 80 years to topple it, overturn it, and bring those people back is not a long time, in my view. So I think we're coming now to a climax. That wicked empire is falling, and I will live to see it fall. So I would say within 10 years, this whole redevelopment of the continent with the help of black peoples of the West, so-called diaspora, will happen. I mean, we're seeing superstars and African diplomats starting this ventures such as Wakanda City, such as Akon City, which is all coming from this original roadmap given to us by our founding fathers, which was to develop a land granted to the people that helped Ethiopia defeat fascism.
Isn't that a redefinition of the constitution that you're talking about? It's not talking about big businesses,
yes,
multimillionaires of African descent trying to make a difference.
Yes.
Not for the cause per se.
But for their survival.
Right.
We've got to look at this it has started already, because we like to use the word redevelopment even instead of repatriation because you get onto a cosmic spiritual plane. We've got to encourage our black businessmen, our black professionals, our black farmers and our black tradesmen to come to Africa and to redevelop Africa and exchange their skill knowledge, learn from Ethiopians, Africans at home, as well as part their information and their skill and build up businesses. So for myself, I've done it and I've still doing it. And my compatriots are still doing it. So it's a very viable thing. We've got organizations now established here in Ethiopia and across the continent. For instance, in Ghana, you know, the right of return, and a lot of African Americans have returned to Ghana and are starting businesses. South Africa's the same. So Ethiopia was the lead for this, along with the island of Jamaica. So all we're doing is trying to overcome this beast and encourage our people to look to Africa for their future, because now it's coming to a climax.
Are you talking about the Million Man project that you've developed for Shashamane?
Most definitely.
Tell me about that.
Okay, I think everybody, human right is to have land and a roof over their head and food on their table. This is the basic human right. It should be enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I think it is, but it may not be worded in that manner. So what we want to do is to create a community, not only of black people from the West, but indigenous people, whereby we can live in harmony with Mother Earth. So, for instance, that means green technology, green construction, a green city, not a white elephant, but something that is in harmony with Mother Earth. So we would be harnessing all the green technologies of solar, biogas, rainwater harvesting, wind pump energy on a community scale or a village scale until it reaches to a city scale as a model to the future type of liberty that we Africans will enjoy. Instead of fighting against Mother Earth, we have to again live in harmony with Mother Earth. And it's only we, the original people, black people, that can manifest that. So,
and what is happening now?
Well, we've put together a project proposal. It's entitled Climate Resilient Green Economic Communities. Climate Resilient Green Economic Communities. Now, after the war with the fascists, as a way of saying thank you, the Ethiopian government gave to the organization, the Black Peoples of the West, Ethiopian World Federation, a tract of land 250 kilometers south of Addis Ababa known as Shashamane. This land was 500 acres for 500 families to come and develop. And when they develop it, more land would be given. So we've put in place a project proposal whereby we would establish this green community as a model. Now that proposal has been endorsed by 3 African governments, namely Oromo Regional Government, the Federal Ethiopian Government, and the African Union.
So they threw their weight behind this project. They said this is a funky project, not only funky, but this is also a rational project, and you have to push ahead with it.
This is what they are saying.
That was how many years ago?
This was 7 years ago in 2017.
That was a year before you were registered as a local NGO in Ethiopia.
2.5 years before we were finally registered as a local organization. Prior to that, we had been registered as an international organization.
This is a very big project.
It's massive. It's
a multi-million-dollar project.
It's monumental. Monumental. That's why the African Union is behind it, because this is the Pan-African vision. It's not something that's coming out of our cranium. We've inherited this from our founding fathers, the pioneers. So all we've done is refine it and follow their footsteps. which has reached to this point.
So as we speak, what is happening to the project?
Now, when we turned our face to the West, after receiving the endorsements from 3 African governments, we realized that we need to establish a scientific team who are the experts who can put together a very detailed, costed project proposal. This scientific team would be headed by an urban planner, an architect, a civil engineer, environmentalist, and a sociologist. And they would do maximum 1-year due diligence and give us that project proposal. Then, again, with the support of these 3 African governments, we would take that project proposal for funding or whatever is required, endorsement from the United Nations, in line with their decade of Africa and the decade to make the planet green again and all the rest of it. This is a live project which has been put together by the right people, 5 scientists. So
you already know how much you need from the African diaspora, right?
Yes.
Something close to $2 million.
Yes.
And you haven't collected a cent yet.
Not a cent. Now, we don't blame ourselves here for that. It's all part of the struggle, which is a consciousness struggle. What's happened to the black consciousness struggle, in my opinion, is we've put the material issue before the moral issue. We've been taught that this is wrong. We must keep the moral issue in front. What is the moral issue? The moral issue is that an injustice has been committed on the black members of the human family. Therefore, we need to have a reasoning with the perpetrators of this injustice, whereby the perpetrators should apologize sincerely. This is the moral issue. But instead of approaching it that way, our people seem to be reclined in getting some money called reparations and then still stay in the slave masters.
But don't they have a point? Because look at what's happening to the project that you have developed in Shashamane, but there is nothing
that we have developed. We've influenced other people, such as the Wakanda project, such as the ACON project, because we have not been able to secure that seed capital. So it means we've got some more work to do psychologically on black people's mind and thinking. Instead of staying in the slave masters' camp, where they're slowly killing us off, we've got to realize that the moral issue is what needs to be pushed. The perpetrator has to apologize sincerely. When he apologizes sincerely, he takes on full responsibility. There will then be no need to discuss what amount is adequate compensation for each and every slave child. That is the wrong way of doing it. So,
but wouldn't that be something worth considering?
Of course it's worth considering, but you shouldn't put it before the moral issue. This is the mistake that has been made, in my opinion. Now, while still implementing this slavery system, because it's a system, we are clamoring for some compensation, whereas it's not a solution, because he'll just keep promising, keep discussing. Meanwhile, we're being annihilated. And that's what's happening to us.
You see light at the end of the tunnel?
We are very confident in the victory of good over evil.
And of also a view project in Shashamane?
Yes. I mean, our project is a pilot project. So the ultimate goal is to build this 1 million family community. In the meantime, we've implemented a lot of micro projects, such as rainwater harvesting, the building of schools, the building of roads, in going into the urban, into the rural areas. All of these good works, such as the importance of herbal medicine as opposed to conventional medicine. So our influence has really strengthened our union with our Ethiopian brothers and sisters here. Our coming and living in Shashamane has really opened the eyes of our people. And it's also opened the eyes of our people in the West to say that, what is the solution? Why did we receive a land in southern Ethiopia? Why wasn't it somewhere else?
So you want to make a difference, right? As you said, you're trying to make a difference in the lives of communities in Shashamane. Yes. So, but you continue to be viewed as those hippie, ganja smoking folks from Jamaica.
Yes.
That still lingers in the air.
Well, I mean, there will always be stereotyping, but my experience living and working in Ethiopia for 35 years has shown me that we have to show by example how to dispel this stereotyping. For instance, I'm a building engineer. I've come here to Ethiopia and I've helped to raise the standard of workmanship and quality in the building industry. And I can say I'm happy at what I've achieved because I've raised that standard. So it's the same for all of us who are deemed pioneers who are living now in Ethiopia. So for us, the land is more than ample for all of us across the whole continent. But we are being divided through neo-colonialism, as Dr. Kwame Nkrumah called it. And we've fallen victim of it. Hence, we're putting material issue before moral issue and getting confused. Hence, our inability to raise $2 million, which is peanut money, for an international monumental project to establish a climate green economic community.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Anapa na instinct so